Emily, hey, congratulations on your
Hi.
short film.
Thank
Hi.
you so much.
Hey, so let's start off with the easy question.
Okay, great.
What sparked you to do this short film on Blue Moon?
So there were a couple of different ingredients that went into this. I've been acting the last 3 or 4 years, and COVID kind of killed that industry for a little while. And I felt, I think like many people, kind of lost without the thing that became kind of my identity, and realized how much of my life and my future was relying on other people, my agents, my manager, all of that. And I thought that I really wanted to take my life into my own hands and create something on my own. And I think that the amount of rejection also I'd gotten through acting, I just hit a little bit of a wall. And one of my best friends started dating women, and I've been lucky enough to be a witness to her journey. And one of the things she mentioned to me is how she felt really underrepresented in media. And that spurred the idea to create a queer love story. And then she and I were also talking about this concept of love within a single night, and the kind of magic that can exist within that fantasy, right? Because it is a fantasy, you don't know each other, so it's great and rosy and sunshine, and you exist within this little snowball. And I think we've all had those moments of like pure magic, and sometimes it just exists within that one night, and so that was really cool. And Blue Moon kind of is the combination of both of those concepts. And the working title at the beginning was called Little Spoon. And it was supposed to be 3 minutes, and I was going to shoot on my iPhone, and then it turned into Blue Moon. And I first came up with the tagline, which is, if you believe in magic, once in a blue moon, you might just find it. And so therefore Blue Moon was born, and then came like a color palette and an aesthetic and a whole thing. But it's one of those things that just kind of happened. And it happened in a way that I realized I found the thing I was meant to be doing, which is a really amazing feeling and a really cool feeling. And I think the happy accident that is Blue Moon turned out to be a really wonderful thing in my life. So,
Wow, that is quite a trek. A 3 minute.
yeah.
Into
Oh, yeah. You're
that,
telling me. Yeah. I didn't know the first thing about any of this. I just was an actor and could convince people that I knew something that I was talking about, and then just hired people who knew more than I did. And I'd been on set before, and I read many a script, and I understood that world. But as far as like what went into it exactly, and mind you, I kind of did everything. I mean, I location scouted, I styled, I set decorated. I had a huge say in all of the graphic design. The press kit that we use, the images in the press kit, I gave the cast members disposable cameras to use during filming. And so those photos they took ended up being in the press kit. I even co-wrote and produced the theme song that's at the end. My wonderful editor and I sat shoulder to shoulder for 12 hours a day for a week to edit the project together. But I had no clue. I have so much respect for anybody who makes anything, because it's quite a process, and there are so many things that go wrong and so many moments we could just give up. And I think making it to the end, whether it's good or bad, is a huge accomplishment for sure.
well, tell me this, for just the gist of the 3 minute concept that you came up with. Was the 3 minute concept, was it going to be the car ride? Was it the cliffside, or was it the house?
It was actually the sex scene. And it was called Little Spoon. And because I recently had an experience where like I had just met this person, but we'd stayed up all night together, and it didn't really exist beyond that, but it was such an incredible experience. And one of my good friends whose story heavily inspired this, she'd had a similar experience. And so we thought, okay, well, what if we just explore this relationship in this cocoon of just like a bedroom for an entire night? And then Little Spoon was the idea, right? Especially if you have two women, following the gender dynamics that exist, right? It's not a atypical kind of straight relationship. And so we're really interested in that dynamic. So it was going to be the sex scene. And then, I had an experience that made me kind of think about like, okay, but who are these people and what exists on either end of this? And then that's how Blue Moon kind of like an accordion expanded. So that was it. Yeah, that's what happened.
Well, let's break down your short film here, because it could easily became a feature film if it needed to. But
that's me like wishing on a star. Yeah, that's the goal.
Well, let's start off with with the car ride. Where did
Yeah.
you get that station wagon? That's
Oh, on Turo. On Turo, which is like, it's like Uber for renting cars, I guess. So that car only came into picture like 2, 3 days, less than a week due to shooting. We were going to shoot in this old blue Volvo, which was cool, but not as cool. And I personally have a classic car. I'm obsessed with cars. And I'm obsessed with aesthetic and vibe. And Blue Moon, it was so important that it was also not only a beautiful story, but visually really beautiful. And I wanted it to also be a love letter between the two women, but to Los Angeles as well. And so we found the house first, which was its own character, and then the car and the styling. That car, love it to death. It's very loud. It's very hard to pick up audio in. You don't know if it's going to stop. It was very temperamental, but it's its own character, and it turned out so well, and it's so cool.
Now, of course, you filmed in the Hollywood Hills off the cliff, looking into the
Yeah, yeah.
there. How challenging was that for you, especially for first time directing?
First time directing. So I've been to that. I've had many a date on that spot. It kind of was my secret spot. But we shot. So the house was located in Los Feliz, which is like East LA, out by Dodger Stadium. But the cliff is in Laurel Canyon, which is kind of central. And you see the route that they take, which is actual route to get there. We kind of obviously condensed it. But I first fell in love in East LA. That's where my first love story existed. So the shops and the stores that we're passing to get to this overlook are places that I really passed and were very meaningful to me. We even passed one of my favorite restaurants, which is called Patta's. It's on Laurel Canyon. And we permitted off that spot on Mulholland, which was pricey, but definitely worth it, because then we could tell people to fuck off, basically, who wanted to park there. And we had a park ranger with us. I had a crane. We ended up not using the shots, but I had a techno crane, which was crazy because, again, this was supposed to be on my iPhone. I think the hardest part about that was making sure that traffic didn't stop, right? Because you have all the TMZ tour buses, because you pick up that audio, which can be really annoying. And then just timing, we just shoot at the sunset, and if you miss the sunset, you miss the sunset. And so just being there at that time was probably the most difficult thing. And then just making sure that because some people just want to park there and don't really want to listen to you, which is why you have the park ranger. But it really is so beautiful, and it worked out too. I mean, the shot where we get them from behind was a total accident. That wasn't supposed to happen that way. It was supposed to be from the front, but we missed the sunset a little bit. And so the initial shot from the front was way overlit. It didn't work for continuity. We can't use it. And my lovely script supervisor and associate producer, Elle, told our cinematographer to get that shot at the very end of the day, and it worked, and it was great, and it saved the day. So that's another tip for anybody listening to this: get everything, because you never know what you're gonna need when you're in the editing room, and that saved everything. And then we ADR'd the audio after the fact, because we didn't get any audio on the third day. That also happened. So yeah, it happened you're just oh, thank God. It's a relief when it all works out.
I'm actually amazed the fact that this being your first anything as a director, you did a driving scene, you did a sunset scene, and then you even did a house scene with a sex scene in there.
Thanks.
You just checked off all the boxes.
Checked off all of the boxes. Yeah. Yeah, we should do an aquatic scene next. Yeah, I mean, the good thing is I just had no clue what I was getting myself into. So I didn't have any opportunity to be I had no opportunity for an oh shit moment. It was just okay, you're here and this is happening and you have all of these people. Also, I self-funded this project entirely by using my college fund that I never touched because I never went to school. I went the whole acting route instead. And I think once you have a certain amount of money, especially your own money behind something, you just can't stop. It's just going. And now the goal is to make it as best as it can be, so you can go to as many festivals, so you can sell this, so you can make your money back and tell your mother you weren't crazy. That was the driving force behind it all. And I think I knew it had the potential to be something great, and there was so much heart behind it all. But it was one of the hardest things, but also one of the easiest. I think it just came naturally. I think the harder thing were all of the logistics, and the accounting and all of that stuff that's not the funnest to do. But actually being on set, I mean, it was incredible. And I was really melancholy when it was over, which I didn't expect. I thought I'd be relieved, like, oh, now I can sleep. I was really sad, and now I'm doing it again, which is crazy. But yeah.
Hey, tell us about the song selections. I know this is a few songs in the short film, but before we talk about the song that you helped wrote, what about the other song selections in the film that you brought in?
Well, Little Bitty Pretty One is always one of my favorite songs, and it's one of those songs you put on when you're sad, and it makes me happy and want to like bop around. So when I imagined them in this car and I was writing that scene, that was the song I was writing the scene to. Mind you, I had no clue like what licensing was or like what that process was even like, or costs. But that was the song I always imagined in that moment. And it ended up working out incredibly well. And then Too Late to Turn Back Now, which is kind of in the middle of the short when they come together. Initially, that was a different song, but I was watching Spike Lee's Black Klansman, and I'm a huge Spike Lee fan, and that song is in that film. They're like dancing, and it's actually when John David Washington's character starts to first fall in love. And I was like, this is perfect. Mind you, we were already in post, so like everybody was very annoyed with me that I said that. That's also a tip, like no matter how annoyed people get with you, like still make your decisions, even if you're being meticulous, because it works out in the end and they always thank you. So we actually unlocked the picture and changed the song to that song, and I thought it worked out so well, and it was all the same era, and it fit the scene and everything so well. So that's how that happened. But the Too Late to Turn Back Now came in like pretty late in the game for sure. I think we'd actually already submitted like a different version to a festival already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you did everything. You produced, you directed, you wrote,
emotional support, everything.
Yeah. And you even wrote a song called, was it Her?
Yeah, it's called Her. So Olivia Barris, who plays Maya Davis in the short, she and I wrote it together. And it's funny, I've dated quite a few musicians, but not long enough to get a song out of it. And so I just thought to myself, like, what would I want somebody to say about me, like selfishly? And that's how we kind of put together the song. And we wanted it to be like really tender and really sweet and really meaningful. And then so there's a playlist for Blue Moon that I just created when I was writing it. It's full of love songs. One of them being Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers, which is one of my all-time favorites. And I love the cadence and the softness and the tenderness of that. And so that was a large inspiration for the melody. And then we ended up using a guitar that was from the 60s, so a similar era, and slowed it down a little bit and added the acoustics. And her voice is so beautiful that I really wanted to hear it. But that was another thing where you're like, it's like cooking. You're just adding all these ingredients and hoping to dear God that it comes out well. And I remember the first time I heard it, I just started crying, and it's really beautiful. And I think now that I've been talking about it more, initially the morning after scene, which is what the song plays over, like the first cut of that was the entire 2.5 minutes of the song. And then my editor and my producer were like, we have to like knock it down a little bit. But I think I might just create a music video with that entire scene with that song, because it's just so precious and beautiful and heartwarming and sweet and tender. And there aren't a lot of like queer love songs either. And I think that it's really cool. So.
Well, just remember to do the music video under 3 minutes, not.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let me not forget to talk about your two actors. Talk about Olivia and Andre for your show.
So Olivia, I actually met in acting class like 5 years ago, and we just became fast friends and collaborators. And then Audra and Olivia were already friends, so that's how I met. I never met Audra before, but they were good friends. And so that's kind of how I cast it. It was through friends. I didn't, I didn't really know what I was doing, and here were two people who believed in me, and that was so valuable to me. And then we used their personal stories. They were really generous in opening up with me. They're both queer as well, and so they were really generous in opening up with me on their own stories. And the scene where they're on the car and speaking about their experiences was largely inspired by the stories they had told me. And I don't think I could have made it without those two girls. I think that it was the magic between the two of them was really important and really special and made the film what it is. And I think, you know, even doing the sex scene, you know, having them already be such good friends and so comfortable with each other, there's a trust and a bond that needs to exist within that experience that they were able to have. And it worked out really, really well.
Obviously, that those scenes are very difficult to direct, and you managed to accomplish that.
Thanks. So. Oh, I'd also like to note that Audra had never acted in a single thing before. She was actually working like in like COVID compliance on the set of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel in New York, and she was here on vacation for like a week, so we had to shoot it within that week. But she just won Best Supporting Actress at the Chelsea Film Festival, which was amazing because that was an audience award. There was no submission or anything. So she did an amazing job, and I think she has a large career ahead of her. So
that is great to hear. Well, Emily, well, tell me this. Now, since you got your first short film, you know, out of the way, it sounded like you were telling me you're not turning back. You're going to do more.
No, yeah, I kind of got a taste, and I think anybody who loves set will tell you how addicting it is. And I love a team sport, and I was sad when it ended and realized that I wanted to keep doing this till my college fund runs out, and then hopefully I'll get financiers. So I'm in the process of in pre-production for my next short film, which I want to pitch and sell as a pilot for a series. And then my other hope is to turn Blue Moon into a feature. We're in talks with some distribution companies, and I think that would be really a beautiful project to work on next. So there's lots of things happening. Yeah, no going back. We're in this, and I feel like it's what I meant to do. And I've been working since I was 13. I started modeling that young, and I think there's been different stages in my life where I thought like, oh, maybe this could work, but it never was quite like my soul didn't feel entirely in it. And this is one of the things that just feels like, okay, this is my path. Like I just want to go live in the woods and make art, you know, and hopefully people can be inspired by it. And then I can use my own experiences, you know, like the next project is called 13 Stepping, and it's based, you know, on an AA group of 13 people about how their lives intersect and intersex with one another. We're shooting in New York. There's 13 characters, various races, nationalities, sexualities. And it's largely based on myself when I was 19 and when I was getting sober. And that's been a very cathartic process. And, you know, it's a bit sexier. It's a lot sexier than Blue Moon, a lot more provocative. You know, there's a lot of reds and dark browns and blacks, and it's much grungier. So that'll be really cool too. It's kind of a polar opposite, but I'm also acting in that one as well, which is a whole other like job description I just decided to throw in there. But that'll be really cool. I'm excited to learn about that experience, what it's like directing and acting at the same time, you know? I feel like as a fellow actor, it'll be just interesting to see how the trust works with the actors I'm acting with. You know, I think that a good director creates a really safe cocoon for those who are working. So it'll just be crazy. I don't expect to sleep much, but I'm very excited.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you are pushing yourself. So there's still plenty more to do. But before I let you go, how are there more chances for audiences to check out your short film on Blue Moon down the road?
Yes, for sure. So it'll be streaming publicly in a couple of months when we're done with the festival circuit. At the moment, they can follow me on Instagram, which is Emily_RUHL. I'll be posting links to either virtual festivals where you can stream the short. That'll normally be on my Instagram story. There's also a link in my bio to the Blue Moon Instagram account, which will also have all of the stories about where you can watch it. And then there's my personal website, emilyruhl.com, that has a trailer for the film. And the Blue Moon website also has the trailer. Once we're able to stream that, the entire short film online, then that'll be on my website and Blue Moon's. But right now, festivals, you can't stream online. So you have to wait till you get done.
Most excellent to hear. Well, Emily, hey, thank you for carrying this conversation with us.
Thanks for having me.
Blue Moon. And you know what? When you're done with the next project, let's talk.
Great. I can't wait. I can't wait to hear all the things I have to tell you too, all the things I've learned. Yeah, it'll be great.
Let's do this again. Thank you. Next time.
Thank you so much. Bye.